Spirit refers to the subtle things, subtle forces, and the subtle beings, who are much too polite to say that they exist directly, and so I've been asked to do it for them. There are simple forces, such as a falling tree squashing a fence, and there are subtle forces, such as intent. If I intend to remove the fence tomorrow, the fence is going to come down. A simple force and a subtle force that lead to the same thing. As humans, we have several separate sensory systems, and we sense subtle substances, which we describe as pressure, vibe, intent, will, atmosphere, presence, something like that. When we are sensing something as subtle, we weigh it intuitively by relying on all of our experience and our knowledge. If we try to break it down and analyse it logically, we turn our approach from subtle to simple, because logic is not subtle, it's very clear-cut. And using reason instead of intuition, nothing will be experienced in a spiritual way. While people can pick their approach and decide that a clear ghost is actually a hormone imbalance, the subtlety itself is a matter of degree. For example, physically shoving would be very simple and can move regular objects. Slightly more subtle is advancing with a spike, which creates a pressure that motivates creatures capable of feeling pain, and even more subtle would be an expectant glance, because the only consequences would be in the invisible social fabric. But not all subtle forces come from people. When the national anthem starts, everybody stands up. But what exactly causes this force? These days, believing in Santa Claus makes you a madman. But he still delivers all of his presents in a single night. Despite his chubby appearance, his body is very subtle. The giga-nerds amongst you may try to dismiss this and say that Santa's power is just an emergent property of human consciousness, but that doesn't actually stop him from existing. Nor does it make him weak, nor easy to manipulate. I can equally say that the very simple, very concrete presents under my Christmas tree are an emergent property of Santa's intent. And because Santa is symbolically associated with generosity, destroying Santa would damage something that holds society together. One of the funny things about groupthink is that it's actually necessary if you want to group at all. Physicalist approach. Oh, hello, Flinty. Obviously, you can take a simple physicalist approach, in which Santa's body consists of neurons, ink on paper, merchandise, and whatever digital storage is. A regular brick's body is very obvious and all in one place, but Santa's body is widely distributed. And don't forget that my personality is actually built out of neurons too. I'm not trying to denigrate humans by respecting Santa Claus. The subtle and simple ways that people exist are both powerful, and in us, they're well integrated. However, I do not believe that humans are the only beings on Earth, only that we're supposed to be running it. Even a twig can be a twig, but Santa's being does unavoidably cause presents to be delivered around the whole world on a single night. Speaking of human beings, they often support various causes by melding their subtle existence with them. Like, for example, did you know John Smith is a member of the Green Party? You sort of stick them together. Our memories and perceptions of somebody, of course, make up their subtle body. And so when you attach somebody's memories of you to their memories of a collective, you become spiritually joined to it. And so the world of human spirituality is about association, purpose, and pressure. What do you mean to everybody else? What influence are you having? So spirituality is about how people interact with the subtle world. For example, seeing a bird is a clear omen that it's a good time to besiege Jerusalem. But in seriousness, people can be very sensitive to this stuff, and will sometimes viscerally visualize what's going on. In groups where this is normal, spirits being seen is very common. So people experience the subtle force, and then you find an appearance and a name for whatever caused that subtle force. So when it comes to Christianity, our spirituality is very concerned with becoming joined to God's love. And we interpret spiritual forces as either angelic or demonic, based on whether they support or oppose that love. Theologically, of course, God himself would never be contained by the spiritual realm. Claiming that the Holy Spirit is built out of neurons would be heresy, and so I might actually be obliged to roast you later, if you catch my drift. Because Revelation speaks of God creating a new heavens and a new earth, and these are associated with bodily resurrection. In my mind, people saying he died and went to heaven are talking about the same kind of thing as living on in our memories. Like, it's real, but it's not like a full human existence exactly. But of course, if you aren't Christian, I'll permit you to think differently. Finally, I know of one other type of being I can explain. The Fae. Fairies are the source of subtle forces that we experience acting on us when we are right at the edge of our understanding, right at the edge of our vision. In this state, it is extremely common to end up bamboozled. You often end up getting lost or being paid in something that turns out to be worthless. And if you eat their food, that is, if you really drink the Kool-Aid, you will never be able to leave unless somebody pulls you out. One classic example of people who have ended up chasing fairies would be the explorers looking for El Dorado. They heard just enough to commit their lives to searching. It was a force that arose from the margins, from glimpses and hunches and half-remembered details. And remember that traditionally, fairies are killed by cold iron, or by somebody saying their true name. When you properly grasp something, its tricky nature vanishes. That is, the fairy dies, it dissipates. And unlike collective spirits, such as Santa Claus, usually only one person's going to encounter a fairy at a time, hence their traditional ability to turn invisible. Meaning that when one person can see it, everybody else wonders if they're